Hello, it's Rebecca here from Precious Pages Papercraft, and today I'm creating a layout to celebrate one of my scrappy friends, Kelsey, reaching 2,000 subscribers here on YouTube. So we're having a celebratory hop, and it's on YouTube and Instagram, and we've each chosen one of Kelsey's layouts to scraplift, and this is the one I've chosen here. I'm going to pop it up in the corner for you. I absolutely love everything about this layout, so I was really excited to get the opportunity to scraplift it. And I've got this photo of my little boy planting our sunflower seeds recently, and I've got a paper there from Craft, and also this gorgeous patterned paper pad that I got recently in The Range. In the UK, that's a shop that sells kind of a little bit of everything, but it does have some good bits in its craft section. My cousin went recently and got this pad, and when I saw it I just had to go and get it myself, so I'm really excited that it works really well with this photo. I'm going to stick really close to the original, mainly because I love it so much. So I'm going to have some tags and my photo on the left hand side, and this kind of folded back corner in the bottom right. But I am going to fake that part because the patterned paper I'm using for my background here, the B-side really did not work. So I'm going to cheat and recreate that folded back corner with a different patterned paper. So I start by cutting down my background sheet by 1 inch on two sides and distressing all the edges with my edge distresser. And then the pattern paper I've chosen to kind of frame my layout, I've gutted the middle out so that it's not wasted, and I'm going to use part of it on this layout, but then the bit that's left over I will keep and use on a different layout because it was just a waste having it covered up. So I always gut my papers if I'm using a frame. And at this point I'm just flicking through that lovely pad trying to decide what patterned paper to use. There was two with sunflowers on, but I decided to go with this one because the colours matched and it really is beautiful. I don't think seeing it on video does this pad any justice. It's really gorgeous in real life. So all I've done is sliced the corner off of my layout and then traced it onto this patterned paper or drawn around it. And then I'm just cutting that back out to recreate that folded back corner look. And I think once it's finished and all stuck down, you can't actually tell that it's sort of cheated and faked. It really does look realistic, like it has been folded back, so it worked really well. So I made sure to distress the correct two edges to make sure it kind of went in keeping with the rest of the page so that it did have that appearance of being folded back. And I'm just going to stick that down just on that joining edge at the moment because I hadn't decided if I wanted to prop the rest up with foam pads or not. So now obviously I've got a hole in my background that needs filling, so I've picked out this gorgeous polka dot paper. It's kind of like sort of marigold kind of colour. It's a bit deeper than a yellow but not quite orange, but it matches the sunflowers really well and the jumper that my little boy is wearing in my photo. I knew for this layout I wanted to scrap one of these photos using this pad, and I couldn't remember when I sort of sat down to think about it what clothes he was wearing, and I dreaded to think because he does wear quite bright colours sometimes, and I initially thought I would have to use a black and white photo. But when I took these photos off the camera and realised his colours of his clothes matched perfectly, I was so happy. Like, I literally cannot tell you how happy I was that everything matched really well. So that's worked really well. So I've picked that orangey paper there just to go and fill that gap in and bring a bit more of that colour down to the right hand side of the page. And I stuck it down and then remembered I hadn't distressed the edge, and if you follow me on Instagram or YouTube you'll know how much I love distressing edges. It's something I do on every layout, and I stuck this bit down and realised I hadn't done it, so quite tricky to then get my edge distresser in, but managed it in the end. So I'm just bringing Kelsey's layout back in just to kind of take 5 and see where I'm at with it. So now I need to move on to making those tags that she's got over on the left hand side, and I decided to stick with the same two patterned papers that I'd used because they go so well with the layout, and I had the scraps there sat next to me, so I thought I would stick with these two. So I'm just marking the centre point there so I can cut that kind of fishtail into them. And I've cut one narrower than the other and one slightly longer than the other, exactly the same as Kelsey, and I'll have those overlapped on the left hand side. And Kelsey's used a square photo, but I couldn't make my photo work square without either chopping off my little boy's head or chopping off the sunflowers. And the whole point of this layout was documenting him planting sunflower seeds, so I didn't want to chop those off. So I've gone with I've printed it kind of 6x4 and then cut it down so it's slightly smaller. So it's not quite 6x4, but it's certainly bigger than 3x4, which is what I normally scrap. But it worked for this layout. So yeah, sadly I couldn't make the square work, which is a shame because it looks really, really lovely with a square photo. But I'm really happy with how mine came out in the end, so I've made that work. And as always, distressing some more edges there, making a right old mess because now my layout is just covered in fluff and I have to lift everything up and blow it off. But there you go, my layout is starting to come together and I'm really happy with how it's looking. So I'm going to go ahead and get everything stuck down in place. So I've stuck that first banner down flat, and then the one that's going to sit on top of it I'm raising up on foam pad, because again with me I love distressing and I love dimension on my layouts, so I use a lot of foam pads and craft foam to lift things up. So I normally back all of my photos on white cardstock, and I couldn't decide if that would work or not for this layout. But I got away with it, I think, because the yellow paper there has got white polka dots in it. So initially I was thinking, oh, I can't really get away with that because there's no white on the layout. I didn't think it would look right. But like I said, because you've got that white in the yellow paper, I think I just about got away with it. But I wanted my photo to have some separation from those papers and kind of pop off the page. It's very unlike me not to have a white background, so I think this is like probably only the second layout this year I've made that's entirely patterned paper. So you'll see my video skipped a bit there. Off camera I've just fussy cut some bits and pieces from the paper pad. So I've got a couple of the smaller sunflower heads, and I've also cut these larger sunflower heads. The patterned paper itself had kind of 5 large ones in the middle and then loads kind of going off the edge. So I've cut a couple of the half ones because they worked really well for this layout. I was going to tuck them under layers anyway, so no point wasting the whole ones. So I've trimmed a few of the half ones and just cut those out. Now I'm going to get those stuck into place. So this one here is going to go in the bottom right hand corner, and Kelsey's got a few layers down there, but I've decided to go with just a sunflower head. And then I've got the other one going to the right of my photo there, and another one to the left. And again, raising those up on foam pads for a bit more dimension. And then I'm going to have my photo sitting on top, slightly overlapping that yellow tag. So I need to add 2 layers of foam there just to raise that up to the same level as the other half of the photo. And just using double-sided tape to stick all of these layers down. So this paper pad that came from the range, they sell quite a few paper pads, and some of them are really, really lovely. The only downside to them is they don't come with any matching embellishments or ephemera or anything like that. So embellishing on this layout is going to be kept to a minimum, because really all I've got is the elements I can fussy cut from the papers themselves. So I'm just going to keep it simple with some sunflower heads. And these black and white ones here, the larger ones, I'm going to add some colour to. I've got these water soluble crayons here. I've had these for probably about 20 odd years now. I got them when I was at school. I was probably about 15 or 16 for GCSE art exams, and I was really excited when I took up scrapbooking to realise I still had them, and they're very similar to the Vicky Boutin art crayons, so really love using these. Really easy to use, and I've just mixed them with a bit of water on some packaging, and I'm just using a paintbrush to add the colour to the sunflowers. And then I'm using my finger just to kind of smush the ink around a bit. I don't want each petal to be completely covered. I want some sort of white areas and some shading on it. So you'll see I'm just going to come in with a few colours and then a few darker spots, just to try and make these sunflowers look a bit more realistic. And once I've done the petals themselves, I come in with some darker colours and do the centre of the flowers, and then add a little bit of darker shading to the petals. I'm really happy with how they came out actually. I do think they look quite realistic. So then on to my title. I knew I wanted my title to be Bloom and Grow, but I literally raided my thickers stash trying to decide what to use. I initially was going to go with gold, but it wasn't quite looking right. So I've got these white thickers, and they're like white chipboard almost. So I've picked those out, and I'm just trying to decide where I want my title. I move it around a few times, and in the end I pretty much keep it where you see it now, and that's because I felt it kind of linked the two sections of the layout together nicely. You'll see I skipped the video in a minute because I was faffing about for ages, and then where I'd faffed so much they'd lost their sticky, so I'm having to stick them down. And apologies here for my little boy. He's come in to see what I was up to, and he's decided to pour my entire bowl of sequins all over my layout. So I just have to take a moment to pick all of those back up. Anything small and sparkly, he's like a magpie. He's got his hands in everything. So he's just loitering around now somewhere. So you probably keep seeing his hands come in a minute. And in a minute he actually ends up on my lap whilst I'm trying to stick my sequins down, bless him. So in this bowl I've got a mix of sequins. There's some browns, some yellows and some golds, and a couple of kind of bronze colours, all in different sizes. And then I've got some jewels as well. And I'm just kind of strategically placing them in a few areas of the layout, kind of in groups of sort of 3, 4 and 5, just to scatter a little bit of sparkle across my layout. And then I'm using glossy accents to stick those in place. And as you can see, my little helper's back squeezing my bottle. In the end I have to let him help me, otherwise I'm going to end up with adhesive all over my page. So that's my sequins all stuck down now. I have to lift my page off away from my little boy so I can take a decent look at it. And I decide that the thickers that I've used need some colour to them. They weren't looking right being a kind of off-white colour on the page. So again, I've reached for my water-soluble art crayons, and I've just mixed some with water and a bit of packaging. And initially I just went around adding some of the colour to the left-hand side of each of the letters. Excuse me, but when I've finished that I hold it up and not really too keen on it. It hasn't blended very well because I haven't put gesso on it, so it just looked a bit harsh. So I then go back over and just colour in the whole of each of the letters. It's not very obvious colour, it's quite subtle, but it just looked a bit better than leaving them raw as they were. And once I've finished that, that's pretty much me done. So I'll leave you with some photos of the final layout and some close-ups. Please do click on the button to have a look in my description box below, because you'll find the links of all the other ladies taking part in today's hops. You'll find the links for their videos. So if you do get some time today or during the week, please do click and have a look through everybody's videos, because we're all celebrating Kelsey's 2,000 subscribers. So thank you very much for watching. Please do remember to hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you next time.